Hey guys, we are on the Show Me the Money Zoom, and it's Christine and I today. And so this one is going to be, I don't know how interesting it's going to be to watch, because we are really just going to start digging through our reports and figure out where we need to focus our attention. So last week, if you watched last week's Show Me the Money, it was all about obviously building associate stylist legs and getting those builder bonuses is huge. But today, I think we should kind of focus on first and second line volume, and kind of go through our reports and figure out who are the kind of, who is there that has the potential to be maybe that $1,000 seller that we haven't given enough love to, or that we could reach back out and make sure they understand what's going on. So hold on, let me find a pen really quick. And then, Christine, do you have yours pulled up?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Or my pens. There's another pen in my entire office. All right, Christine, you can talk to the crowd while I run. Well, here's one.
All right.
Okay, I got it.
So I'm terrible at reports, so this is a good one for me to look through.
Hey, Cheryl, how are ya?
And I'm freezing, so that's why I'm still wearing my jacket and I'm sitting next to my fireplace.
All right, so let's pull up our own reports. Okay. Cheryl, can you hear us okay? So you always come up as Cheryl on here. Is that what you go by, or what do you go by?
Yeah, Cheryl.
Oh, Cheryl, okay. Because it comes up as something else on Facebook, and right?
Yeah.
Oh, Leah, okay. Okay, so we'll do, and then so Cheryl, pull up your reports. Today we're going to talk about how we can really build our paycheck with first and second line volume. Because that makes a huge difference. We look at months like October, and we look at months, like November versus like a February or January, for example. And we think that they're wildly different because of, usually what it comes down to is the hobbyist taking action. So if we look at team coaching, I'm going to personally, okay, so do you know how to sort your reports?
Yeah.
So you can filter.
That's first and second line.
Yes. And we can even do one at a time. That might be easier just to do one at a time. I'm going to do first line first, because obviously depending on what your pay rank is, your first line is going to be your absolute kind of biggest bang for your buck. So then I like to sort by PQV. So I just hit that little arrow next to PQV, and I can very quickly see kind of where everybody's falling. So, and this is obviously, depending on team size, this is going to be a lot easier to do with someone who's got a smaller team. But as your team starts to grow, this is a great way to kind of filter and figure that out. I like to sort by all kinds of things. Figure out at the beginning of each month who has trunk shows, who has sales. But, okay, so I'm sitting here looking right now. Lots of people kicking some serious booty on the first line. Let me look at, you know what else we can sort by? We can sort by, I'm going to filter by. What were you saying?
So this is very interesting.
I know. Isn't it interesting? I will tell you, it's important probably at least once a week to go through reports, because it's really easy. And this happens to me all the time. I get so caught up in the actions that I know are going to help me build my business and the conversations and all of that, that sometimes I forget to look at the most obvious thing. And you're like, oh my gosh, this person who I haven't heard from in 3 months has all of these shows. Well, guess what? If you can get to them before they do their shows, you can then help them book at that show and sponsor at that show and kind of strike while they have the business. Whereas if we don't talk to them, a lot of times, if it's a bust or if it doesn't go like they wanted it to, it just is one show and that's it. So, okay, let's see. First line, and I'm going to do, well, I guess I'm not going to sort by qualified. Okay, just going to hit apply. Cheryl, did you have a chance last week to listen to the Show Me the Money Zoom?
I don't think so.
Okay, so definitely go back and watch that, because today is more of like a deep dive into reports and kind of figuring out where you can re-engage current stylists that sort of thing. But definitely watch last week's too, because we really go into the details. We have the comp plan in front of us and we kind of go through, this is how, so we obviously know the more first line stylists you have that are engaged and active, the bigger paycheck's going to be. And also the more of those that you can promote to associate and get that good second line volume coming in, that makes a huge difference too. And the builder bonuses. That's the thing that probably we let slip through the cracks. I built quite a few associate stylists last year, but I really didn't probably work as hard as I should have to help them maintain that throughout the year. So I probably missed thousands of dollars in bonuses, not helping them hit that second and third time and help them build consistently. They might have brought along that first friend, but then I'm maybe after Jumpstart, if they weren't engaged and actively doing coaching with me, there's a good chance that they probably faded back into being a hobbyist. So that was, and Christine, I think you were probably the same way. Like you built quite a few associates last year. Okay, so that should be, there's a call later today about that, but I would love to see us over the next, we have 8 days left of the sign-on special to help every single new stylist that we have bring along a friend. Because that would double everybody's sponsoring.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what are you guys seeing that's interesting or surprising? Christine, you said earlier, that was surprising.
From my first line, just who, I have a girl who's at almost 2,400 in sales. Beth.
And is she doesn't have a team?
Not yet. She was an old stylist. She signed back up, and she was a corporate referral. It was in September, and she's pretty consistent with sales, but she's at 2,400 right now, and she hasn't sponsored anybody yet. And I talked to her about it in the fall, and she just was well, if it happens, it happens. She was not super die hard ready to do it. But I'm going to reach out to her today and text her, because with $2,400, she gets one person to sell $500 right now. She's promoted.
Totally. And someone like that, to me, is always someone that I would reach out to and say, the fact that you could do that, you could sell $2,400 in January is honestly, you could easily be a leader. This is something that is that something interesting to you?
Oh, yeah.
To turn that in, just be that figuring out booking chunk shows. And if people can get in front of people and they can book shows and sell like that, then they can absolutely learn to sponsor and grow.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a lot of where I find my next leaders. For those of you who are listening to the recording, the reason I like to use reports so much is because exactly what Christine just found is what we miss all the time. Someone out of the blue sells 2,400, and if you don't see that right away and kudo that right away and make a big deal about it and say, I'd love to help you do more, how could I be of service? Come from a coaching place of service. It's all about them. It's not about you. But seeing that person there and striking while the iron's hot, while they're doing well, and reinforcing that behavior is the difference between them potentially just being okay, I did a couple of good shows, now it's gone, or, all of a sudden saying, well, gosh, I actually have a couple of girls that I think would be really good at this. Getting those couple of new stylists signed on, and they're on the path to promoting. That is literally the secret of looking down through your reports and finding those diamonds in the rough. I think that's personally one of the hardest things to teach, is getting people selling and booking.
Pulling, a lot of them are at 1,000. So, and they're all in that same group where I feel like that's a group I'm going to be able to be oh my gosh, you guys.
Yeah. So everyone take a second and jot down.
I wrote all their names.
You wrote down. Okay. So of course my first 10 or so are all my current consistent leaders. I'm sad to see the UK girls go. I've got some good UK girls on here. But then I'm going to look right below the 500 level, because right now, I've got probably 10 to 15 in the between 100 and 500 range. And I want to make sure I touch base with all of those people and help them get to 1,000. So this is something else you can do with reports. When you look in and figure out who's doing something, having the difference between having 177, for example, in sales and 0 in sales is a pretty major difference. Complete inactivity versus some activity is huge. So I think if you can pull out those people, I'm sitting here, got a list now of 20, 30 people who've got, $100 to $500 in sales, and say, oh my gosh, I wanted to make sure, even though I just sent them all a video about the special, to personally reach out and say, hey, I noticed you're at 120 in sales. Wanted to make sure you saw blah, blah, blah. You could easily do that with some Valentine's outside orders, maybe create some carts for some husbands that you know, or send some, some of the Valentine's deals to people that you know would love it. Especially like some of those big ticket items like Covet and that sort of thing that they can get at a discount. And the other thing too, Christine, you're really good at this, is sending carts out with people who have credits. Like I've started doing your method of just taking a snapshot when it says your rewards are expiring. Every single time I reach out with that, people are like, I had no idea. That is the first thing.
Read your email.
Yeah. It's the first thing that gets lost in email. Totally.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of texts to do today.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right. Looks like Cheryl's calling back in. Okay. So who else do I see that I need to reach out to? Another thing I like to do when I go through reports and someone jumps out at me like this, if there's any kind of event happening to them coming up, I will say, hey, I wanted to make sure you saw blah, blah, blah. So for example, I've got a couple of Atlanta girls that this will jog my memory and be like, oh, I need to message Esther and tell her that Jessica's going to be in Atlanta. Or, oh, I need to message this girl about Charlotte. And, oh, I've got to go through all my Northern Virginia girls and make sure they're going to boot camp, or make sure they know there's a boot camp and that's the only one that's coming to them probably in the next year. That sort of thing. So I think just digging through reports like this and figuring out that. But I think our lowest hanging fruit is getting all of these happy hobbyists to 1,000. And when they do that, make a huge deal about them. One of the biggest things in coaching to remember is that the more you reinforce a behavior and kudo a behavior, the more likely it's going to repeat. So if someone is doing something that they haven't done before, make a big deal about it. Put their picture up on your team page and say, oh my gosh, I just had to give a shout out to so-and-so who did X, Y, and Z this month. Because what I have found is so many people have no idea like that girl probably has no idea that $2,400 is good. She's probably like, oh, is that good? I heard that so much last year from people in my downline who I don't necessarily talk to regularly. And I'd reach out and be like, oh my gosh, you're killing it. And she's like, I am? This is killing it? And I'm like, yeah, you'd be surprised. That's killing it. And then that reinforces like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. Like that is the difference between people wanting to go for leadership or not, is feeling like they're good at it. If they don't feel like they're good at it, they're not going to try. Okay, so getting noticed, and it's like that Oprah saying that what is the saying about people just want to be seen. People want to be seen, and they want to know that they kind of matter. Okay, what else are y'all looking at? Let's look. Okay, oh, you know what? We can sort by too. This is another thing I like to sort by. I like to sort by sponsoring, because all of a sudden, every once in a while, I'll have a happy hobbyist who sponsor somebody, and if I don't reach out to her more often than not, like let's say I don't catch it until that person's like almost done with Jumpstart, she's like, oh, she just wanted a kit, and she just didn't have the words to say to reach out and say, oh, if you're doing this for the product, let's do one show and get you qualified, because you're missing out on like another $1,000 in free product. A hobbyist just doesn't know to say that to their new stylist. So that's why you want to wow, look at that, Erin Hackett. Oh, it's 5 trunk shows. I thought she had 5 new stylists. I was like, holy smokes. Let's look at sponsoring. Okay. So that's something interesting too, because if I look at a lot of my people on our team right now, if I just sort by my whole team, there's quite a few huge sponsors this month. There are, Sam's got like 6, Victoria's got like 7, all these girls. Well, guess what? I just sorted by my first line, and this is something super interesting. So I would think, because of all the other stuff going on, that we're having a really good sponsoring month. Well, I just sorted by my first line. 4 people have sponsored 1, and that's it on my entire first line. So that just shows me that I'm not working with my first line on sponsoring enough. Literally 4, that's it. So think about that. If this is the biggest sponsoring month of the year, and only 4 new stylists have come in now on my second line, that's not good. And I'm the same way. I've only sponsored 1 myself as well, but how many people are not focusing on that right now? And how can I reach out to them and help them, do something super simple to sponsor this month? Whether it's share this video of Jessica with 20 people or whatever it is.
Well, I think to being helpful like that way of like, here's great words to say with the, you know someone that was already a stylist. Here's words to say, here's the link, here you go, and let people start doing that. Because I'm like, hey, I need to sit down and do the exact same thing, but I want to make sure I have the link. So I'm just going to send them the link. Be like, hey, totally thought of you. It's been a while since you've been a stylist, so you see my post. Check this out. Everything just keeps getting better. I'd love to have you back on the team, and just like send that with the link.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So Cheryl, I don't know if you heard, Jessica did a call last night it was for old stylists coming back. And I heard it was really, really good. So if you have anyone that maybe used to be on your team, or even if somebody you know of that used to do Sell and Die a long time ago that wasn't on your team, obviously it's on one of our teams, then don't reach out. But let's say you have 10 girls in your area that you know that used to do it and don't do it anymore. That would be a really good link to share with them and say, hey, things have gotten so much better, and there's so many things now that we have that we didn't have before. You should definitely check us out. I think I texted like 40 to 50 last night that message about hopping on, and 4 I want to watch it, send me the link. So again, numbers game. The rest of them I didn't hear from. One actually said, I never want to sell anything ever again. I was like, okay.
You're like, have a great day.
That's pretty funny. Okay, what else do we notice in reports? Like, Cheryl, is there anything you see in yours that surprises you?
No, I have a very small inactive team.
Okay, so let's analyze that. So when is the last time you sponsored?
September.
Okay, and how many did you sponsor then? Was it 1?
Yeah. So I sponsored it all happened in the fall last year, so I don't remember exactly. But
so you went from 0 to having a team all over the last like 6 months or so?
Yeah, so I have 6 on my team.
Okay.
But so I have one Kat we were trying to get her to associate stylist during the Inspire program. But now her husband just deployed. She's military also, so she's kind of flexed out a little bit because she doesn't really have the time for it. And then I have another lady. She's like, she's a lawyer, so she works a lot of hours. So I'm like trying to find time to get with her because she has the drive and she has the will. I think she just needs a little bit more training to get to.
And does she know about the Monday night calls?
Yeah, but she spends a lot of time with her kids, like undivided time with her kids. So she doesn't want to like kind of try to multitask.
So what I would do with her, that's a great example. Okay, so I love that you just brought that up. So you have 6 people on your team. I'm assuming the other 4 are not doing much, right? You've got one who's in the military, who it's just about time management. Like her husband's gone, so she probably actually has a lot more time than you think. She might feel overwhelmed because she has all the kids and things like that by herself, but you could actually show her how this could be something super fulfilling in his absence. So I think that's something we can totally work with. And then the lawyer, absolutely we can work with. For her, I look at like a Lori Fetterman, for example. She works full time and can't get on calls during the day because she's got a like high clearance job where she can't even have her computer or phone or anything in with her. She does everything in her car to and from work. So that's when she does her coaching calls. It's when she does, because she goes home, her kids are in baseball, she coaches cheerleading, she's just packed in the evenings too. So she just really, so someone like that, what I would do is be like, we have 90% of our team works full time at something else. I can show you how to work this in a very kind of smart, easy way. So we know in the evenings you want to be with your children, and that's undivided. And we know during work, you've got to work. So what time could you like listen to recordings? Because what time are you just driving around? Is it when you're driving around sports? Is it when you're driving to and from work? I will send you the recordings, or just make sure that, before you leave in the morning, that you've got the link to the new sales training. We're doing every 8:30, we're doing tips from the top every Monday now. So Jen Story did a great one on sponsoring last night. And then of course, like the corporate calls, that's a way that you can help her, and you don't want to necessarily do it for her every week, but like kind of show her that if she just takes a second to have the little links for the recording, she just has to hit play while she's driving and just absorb it in while she's driving, or while she's working out, she can listen to training calls. So just with both of those women, help them figure out how to be super efficient with their time. Because what happens is when people hear that there's a call on Monday at 8:30, if they can't make it, they just think it's off their radar. Okay, well, I missed it. That's all it is. Whereas if you're like, just save the recording, and when you have a free minute, just listen to it. And just show them how to work it super efficiently. Christine's another great example. Super busy, 3 boys, and she just is very smart with her time and where she works things in.
Yeah, like 99% of the calls I listen to are recorded. Like I can't get on because I have different, like I work full time, but also I work full time selling dot, and then on every other day I work full time as a teacher. So on my teaching days, like I can't. I'm a high school teacher. Like I'm constantly busy. So I can't listen to those, where even on days like this, sometimes I can sit and be like completely undivided attention, and sometimes I can't, because it's certain days I still have to do pickups and drop-offs. So like I listen to like 90% of all these calls like on recording, and it's like even at 10 o'clock at night, I just keep one notebook and I can keep it all in.
Yeah. So I actually love the contrast of this call. This is going to be interesting, I think, for people watching the recording with this, because you've got Christine, who's got a really big team. She's super busy. She is super efficient with her sales, with her sponsoring. She knows how to work that in, and she'll tell you herself that her biggest thing is taking the time to like go through reports and find these diamonds in the rough. So for those of you who are listening to this call who have a big team, she's a perfect example of someone who she got on. She sorted by sales, she sorted by trunk shows, and she sorted by sponsoring, and she knew everything she needed to know about this month. She very quickly can sort by, this person has sold over $100 this month, so that's someone I can reach out to real quick and make sure they understand the $1,000, or cheer them on. So you're halfway to getting your $100 bonus for the month. You know, here's what I'm doing, that sort of thing. And that is something that she's just, and this is such a like testament for like, even though those of us have been doing it a long time, constantly figuring out, okay, so that's going really well, that's going really well. But if I figure out like 30 minutes a week that I can dig into reports, whether it's this call or another time, it's going to tell me a lot of information. Cheryl, you're a great example because you've got a team of 6. And what happens a lot when people get to star or even senior stylist and they've got these first couple of girls and then those people fade off, which they do. That happens to every single one of us, but you don't necessarily have the experience or the perspective to know that that's normal. Exactly what we did with your reports. Out of the 6, these 2 could potentially do more. Every quarter, you're going to reach out to those 6 and say, hey, just wanted to check in, make sure you knew X, Y, and Z. I'm here for you. Let me know if you're saving for anything or shooting for anything this quarter. I'd love to help. You're going to do that quick touch base every quarter, but then everybody else, the other 4 that aren't responding to you or whatever else, leave them alone. Like, just let them do their thing. And the other 2 who are like, I really want to do it, but here's my bump, help them work through the bumps. Help them show them how to do it super efficiently. But then the biggest key is sponsor. We always say new is the glue, because that's where a lot of people get stuck at that senior stylist and star level, because they don't continually bring in new. They're like, I have a team of 6. I should be able to hit star with it if they just do something. So instead of like wishing for those 4 to like get off their booties and go out and do a trunk show, touch base with them, let them know you're there, but it's let them do their thing and bring in new. Because if you constantly bring in, that's why we have for this program the sponsoring 1 a month, 1 to 2 a month, because if you did that all year long, then you will always have qualified stylists. You're always going to have a big percentage who aren't doing anything, and maybe they'll flex back in around Christmas time, and then you'll have a huge November paycheck, and that's great. And you always want to love all of your hobbyists. You never want to write them off, because they end up being about 60% of your paycheck when your team grows. But you don't want to ever depend on them for hitting your goals. You have to have new, because at a 199 start, or even now a 99 start, you are going to have a lot of people who do nothing. You're going to have a lot of turnover. So you want to work with the workers, but you also want to make sure those other girls at least hear from you at least once a quarter, but then bringing in new, and that will inspire you. There's nothing better than a new stylist energy. And so reports, and that's the biggest thing I have seen with both myself, because over the past couple of years, I've obviously been doing this 10 years almost now, but over the past couple of years, our team size has gone down. And because we're not we're having a lot of people who have flexed out because, you know, a lot of times not everybody sticks with this for 10 years, but we're not replacing them. And so for us, I know that, okay, our number one priority this year is sponsoring. So if we want to double our team size, which is what my personal goal is, then we, you know, that needs to be kind of our top priority. Same thing with everybody else. It's figuring out like, okay, I want to double my paycheck, so I need to double my team size. And it might even be triple or quadruple if you're sitting in a team of 6. So that sponsoring 1 to 2 months is like the fastest way to do it and replicating yourself. So that's really what reports tell you. It just gives you a very quick, honest. And the other thing I would do, if you're, especially for people, well, actually everybody should do this. And I think we should maybe try to do this before our call next week. Maybe we all go through our reports and compare month over month and go down and look and see what your first and your second line volume is, or even your personal sales. If you've got a smaller team and you're like, okay, that's not going to really impact my paycheck, look at your personal sales month to month and what that does to your paycheck. I think this is kind of like, I don't even know what the example I was going with, but by kind of zooming in on that and getting a real clear idea of, okay, so I made this much that month, but it's because I sold this much. Or I made this month that month, but look, I had 20 first line stylists qualified versus this month I only have 5. That was a big aha for me looking down, and after sorting, that was not a number I was aware of, that only 4 of my first lines have sponsored 1 each. So that is going to be, yeah. Okay. So look, that's
feel good about myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that to me is a major aha and a major point of focus. So now, but I know that now, like I wouldn't have known that otherwise. And so now I'm going to say, okay, so I've got to spend some time over the next, you know, between now and February 5th, reaching out and maybe offering coaching to each one of those first lines, or even just strategizing and being like, hey, I wanted to make sure you saw this. This is what the deal is. You know, it's super easy. This is actually one of the best sponsoring months of the year, and just kind of getting it back on their radar, and seeing what I can do to help with that. So that's it. Oh, it's 10:03, guys. I've got to get on my next call. I've got a corporate call at 10 and 11, but then we've got our group call at 12, and then there's several. Oh, Amy at 10:30 is leading a online trunk show. So if you want to know how she's selling her link, Amy Edwards. Yep, everything all day long is the same link.
Okay.
And it should automatically record.
Cool.
Okay. All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.